Hi there guys. Okay, so England sneak it against South Africa, 12-11. Loads to talk about there. Firstly, game of two halves. What I'm going to do is actually go through the teams, and that's going to kind of stimulate what I'm going to talk about. Fascinating stuff there. Real test match of a game, very reminiscent of a World Cup game. Lots of kicking in that first half, lots of physical confrontation, everything you'd want from a practice for a World Cup type game. So that's definitely a positive for both teams there. South Africa will be absolutely gutted that they didn't win. They will think they had the better of it. And definitely they didn't take their chances. In that first half, they had some cracking field position. And certainly from their point of view, Malcolm Marx probably got a lot to answer for. Has had problems with his line-out throwing in the past. I mean, he has been converted into a hooker, so it can be something that is an issue for him. So England were partly fortunate and partly very good defence. Overall, John Mitchell will be really pleased with England's defence. What England did very well is their line speed was excellent, and they also curved in and they cut off the outside pass very effectively, actually. Slade was good at that. And really cut down South Africa's options, which wasn't too much of a problem for South Africa in the first half because they were going pretty direct anyway, but they certainly minimised the impact of their wingers apart from that try, really. So, you know, pretty good defence from England, but we'll talk about a couple of other things as we go through. So, firstly, let's talk back three. Daly did all right at fullback. He used his kicking well, but certainly, you know, he is exposed under the high ball just for his height possibly. With Noel and Daly in the back three, it's a little bit short. South Africa definitely used that kicking game well. You know, if you're expecting a kicking duel in the World Cup, I'd probably expect Mike Brown to be in there and Daly on the wing possibly. I think that's something to think about. I mean, I had selected Mike Brown for that reason with Daly on the wing. But, you know, he did fine. It's another outing at 15 for Daly. Be interesting selection next week, what they go for. But picking my team for next week, what I'd probably do actually is keep Daly at 15, but I'd have Ashton on the wing. Jack Noel, loads of people said he played well, and the media said he played well, but still nags away at me, and you saw it in this game. He's just not that quick compared to other wingers. He's jinky and he's elusive and he's strong, but he's not got the confidence to take on other wingers and beat them because he knows he's just not quite as quick as them. And at the top level, I'm just not sure that's good enough to, you know, win World Cups and things like that. So, you know, as much as I like him, I would start Ashton next week. Okay, in the midfield, Teo did okay. He looked very short of match time because he was knackered. But I'd stick with him. I thought he did well, especially if you're playing Farrell at 10, Teo at 12. It's a very physical midfield now. And then you had Slade cutting off that outside arc. He did that quite nicely. Some decent touches from Slade. I think certainly hasn't done anything to lose his place, and I don't think there's anyone really pushing for his 13 slot. We don't know if Manu Tuolangi's fit or not. I think they've called up Marchant actually, which is excellent. The Harlequins, 13, he's very talented, which would indicate Tuolangi's a little bit touch and go. So I'd keep the same midfield. Farrell was excellent. If he'd been yellow carded and we'd lost the game on that final tackle, maybe I'd temper that slightly, but apart from that, he was actually excellent. Very physical, excellent kicking, good leadership, good distribution, very cool head, possibly apart from the end. So he really justified his choice at 10. Interesting, when Ford comes on at 10, we saw it in that match. The one particular incident, players don't mark him because they know he's not a massive threat. A gap opened up for him because everyone was marking his passing options. And so he went through the gap and then they just held him up really easily. So, you know, that is an issue with Ford. It can happen. Right, so just getting my team sheet back here. So I keep that midfield the same. Okay, so second row. So Cruz and Toje. Yeah, I thought they both played well. I mean, apart from Toje's Achilles heel of giving away silly penalties, which he did again right at the beginning, and then he got a yellow card, although that second one wasn't quite as bad because he actually made a good tackle first. But yeah, that's annoying. He's got to stamp that out. But apart from that, they both played really well, and I thought Cruz looks good. You know, back in the fold after a while, he looks fit, he looks strong, looks athletic. That's excellent news for England. So I'd probably keep them exactly the same, bringing Courtney Lawes onto the bench for Yules. Yules did well actually when he came on, did some really good stuff, good tackles, solid stuff. I missed the front row. So going to the front row, now that is interesting. They started Sinclair, Hartley, Hepburn, or Hepburn, Hartley, Sinclair, if we're going with numbers. I'd selected Williams to start instead of Sinclair for scrummaging, basically. Certainly Moon's the better scrummager, for Hepburn, but it was his first cap, so I wasn't going to start him. But I thought it was an error. I didn't quite understand why Jones had started his weakest scrummaging front row. I'd have started Williams and George, and it really showed. England got pretty panned in that scrum. They were really struggling. Even when they won their ball, they were trying to hook it quick, get it out. And on South Africa's ball, they were just desperately trying to avoid giving away a penalty, whereas South Africa could use it as a weapon. So that's a big problem for England there, actually. Certainly, I think for next week, I would start with what I picked last week, which is Hepburn, George and Williams. Bring on Sinclair. I actually wouldn't have Hartley in the squad at all. I'd have Cowan Dickey as my impact sub. Hartley was okay, but just nothing special, to be honest. I'd always start George. So now Farrell's a co-captain. I just can't see the point of it. But I'm pretty sure Hartley will start again. He's his man. Right, back row. Curry did okay. He has done his ankle, so he might be out. I thought he was okay. He tries his hardest. I just think he's a couple of years short of his physical prime. So, he's always not quite going to make that impact. He's carried pretty well, actually. He was desperate to try and get a turnover, but just couldn't get the turnover. Wilson was man of the match, rightly so. Really works hard. He's not the biggest number 8, but he really packed a punch for his size. His tackling was excellent. I still think he's better 6. And Shields was the disappointment for me. I think many reports I heard said he played okay or played well, but that's because England won. I think the big mistake is England wins, so they say everyone played okay. And Shields didn't at all. His carrying didn't make an impact. So that's one thing. His tackling I thought was awful, especially in the first half. Really high, just grabby. Didn't like it at all. South Africa were getting over the gain line again and again and again. And then he made a couple of ridiculous offloads as well. So it's pretty much everything I didn't like actually there. I'd consider dropping him for sure for the next game for New Zealand. But if Curry's out and you drop Shields, then that's 2 of your back row you've just practiced with. You're chucking away. So I'd give him another go, and I'd say you're lucky, but you really need to step up against New Zealand here, and that is his country where he's played all his rugby. He's got his friends and stuff, so he's going to want to play well there. So I would give him a crack, and I'd bring in Mercer for sure. Mercer was fantastic off the bench. Physically, obviously he's got a few years to mature, but he's shown he can work in tight traffic against South Africa. He's got a natural swerve, a little step. He's got some natural moves that gets him away from heavy traffic, and he's strong. He'll get stronger, and his skills are great. So I think he deserves a start. So I was thinking, maybe you move them around, maybe you keep Shields and Wilson where they are, and slot Mercer in. But I think Mercer's an 8 for sure. So I would let Mercer play 8 potentially, and then move Wilson up to 7 maybe, or maybe swap Wilson and Shields 6, 7. But anyway, I'd have Shields, Mercer, Wilson, and just tell Shields that you need to perform this game. Okay, and then in general, really, the England forwards, they weren't making the impact in the carries that South Africa were in the first half. South Africa were getting over the gain line, they were stopping England, and they just didn't capitalise on their opportunities. And then when England brought on their bench, which was actually a better team, and South Africa started making mistakes, they started tiring. Etzebeth went off, which was a big blow for them. Then England really got on top, got into their game, started playing quick rugby. They looked good in unstructured rugby as well, which is great. And they came through, yeah. So I better quickly talk about the Farrell tackle. It's a bit weird. So if you look on the left side, it looks like a tackle. He wraps his arm on the left. And luckily for England, that's the big camera shot from the side, so it looks okay from the side. From the other side, it looks completely opposite. It looks like a complete shoulder charge, arm by the side, leading with the shoulder, one arm slightly wrapping. So he was lucky, but the ref had been giving the 50-50s the way of the tackler all game. I thought he was fairly lenient, particularly, not badly in the game, but he was consistent. But I was expecting a penalty because of the climate of the tackle at the moment. So I was pretty relieved, as was Farrell, when it wasn't given. So yeah, England got away with one there. They need to step up. I think they need to... Selection was an issue. I think Eddie Jones made some mistakes there. And they need to select a stronger team, basically, for New Zealand. Can they win? Yes. It's unlikely because they're underdogs, but, you know, I'm always hopeful. Anyway, pop down what you would select for New Zealand and what you thought on the game and Farrell's tackle and all of that. And until next time, I will see you then.